Welcome back to Bread and Butter, everybody, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Tito. Tito, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. And you're starting to nail that intro. I'm waiting for Deck Tech to do the karaoke there because we're finally starting to, hit a groove there. But enough about that. We have a guest. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we have the unmuted man, myth, and legend of Squelch fame, Dan0. Dan0, how are you doing today?
Good. A little bit overwhelmed. I'm not gonna lie. I want to peek behind the curtain here, everybody. So here's what went on. So Doc's like, hey, here's how we do this. So go ahead, start recording. We're gonna count down. We're gonna do 3, 2, 1 clap. 3, 2, 1 clap. I'm like, cool. He's like, okay. We do our claps, and then he's like, boom, intro. I'm like, whoa, okay, here we go. Podcast time. Like on Squelch, we have like 30 minutes of chat and all the jokes are used up early. I'm just like, but this is great. I'm doing good.
That's good. I will say I have been described as all gas, no brakes on multiple occasions.
Let's save that conversation for Blizzlet, though, okay?
Yeah. So fun news, everyone. This episode is being recorded 2 days after Bread and Butter's 1-year anniversary. Yay!
Congratulations. 1 year. It's a big deal. Good job.
It is. And unfortunately, there had been some mishaps with missing weeks and stuff because I was a slave to the bakery I had worked at and was working like 85, 90 hours a week. So we had missed a couple weeks there, so that's why we're on episode 42. But alas, we kept going, and that's what matters.
Most of our conversations end up going like, hey, Doc, I thought that episode went really good. Maybe we should work on this. Maybe you should work on that. Maybe you should get a new job. Okay, so eventually we got there.
I did. Okay, so the show, that's what's important here. Episode 42. Dan0, what have you been doing inside Hearthstone?
I've been playing Hearthstone. Yeah, no. So a little bit of Twist. Having fun with Twist for the most part. Playing the J. Cthulhu Rogue. Having good times with that. It's a lot of mirrors. It's a bunch of mirrors in Twist. It's either J. Cthulhu Rogue, you're playing Warrior, or you're playing Warlock. It seems to be the 3 classes that are playable in Twist, which is, it's fine. It is what it is. Been having fun with it. Playing that random Yogg list, a Hearthstone Twitter account posted in Twitter. Been playing that in Wild. That is a lot of fun. I've been having just a bunch of fun with that. Really good time. 2 Yoggs and a bunch of like randomness. Yeah, thank you very much. We'll do that with Romath as well. So it's just it's all the dumb. Like it's just all the dumb. And then some standard, not a ton of standard, I'll be honest. Just because I put a lot of time into Twist, but enough. Still playing mostly the same decks I was playing to Legend last month. So playing some Drum Druid, playing some Pally. Started playing the new. I'm sure we'll get into this later, but tonight played the new that new rogue list with the new Yogg in it, with all the tendrils. Tendril rogue. I'm not sure what we're calling it, but played a whole bunch of that this evening. So I got opinions about it. Yeah, I'm having fun. Hearthstone's been good.
That's wonderful. Tito, what have you been doing in Hearthstone?
I've been trying to get off the Legend floor, because I am at the rank floor in Legend. I am playing, all the folks in Diamond, which is fine. But I've also been trying to play. I'm still playing decks like Dancing Earthen Paladin, which I was really hoping we were going to get more tools in this mini set, and they really didn't. But it's still a fun deck. It's still got some iteration. I'm playing Edelweiss's version. I stopped taking it to THL, unfortunately. But I did play on the THL stream last Sunday night, which was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I lost, but I started off strong. I won my first 2 games, and then I just couldn't get there with the Demon Hunter, the Relic Demon Hunter. It was interesting. It was tough. I had one turn where I kind of got flustered towards the end of the rope, and I was the mage had played the card that gives them a bunch of 4/5s across the board, and I was trying to do the maths and the maths, whatever. But I think I played pretty well, and it was nice to come out the gate, winning a couple, and it keeps my team with an outside chance of still getting into playoffs. So We'll see how these next 2 weeks goes. But yeah, aside from that, just playing Hearthstone, enjoying it. How about yourself, Doc?
Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of BGs. I'm still just shy of 5K. It's been a brutal climb. But I'll get there, and then hopefully I can get closer to 6K. Still haven't got Everything's Fine anomaly, where everyone starts at like 15 health or whatever it is. I forget.
Everything's on fire.
Yes, there we go. And then I've been playing some standard. I've been playing No Glocko's mech rogue list, and this is not with the new cards. This is a deck list I got like 2 weeks ago, and I've just been playing it. And having a 0-star bonus when you get into platinum really sucks, because it takes just as many games to go from plat 10 to plat 6 as it did to go from bronze 5 to platinum. So it's a grind, but it's fun. Hearthstone's just in a good spot right now. I've said it before, there's something to do in every corner of Hearthstone except mercenaries. Like, it's fun all over the place. Yeah, so that's it for me and my Hearthstone adventures. Dan0, what have you been doing outside of the game?
I've been working. I've been working a lot. Not 90-hour weeks at the bakery. Sorry.
Well,
not that much work, but no. So I work at a law school. I work in a career services office at a law school, and the students are all back, and our first year students are now getting all situated. So we have some required workshops we have to get them set up for, and then I had a JAG info session today where it was a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes and that. So it was stressful work stuff. But then, I think my son Dean is playing soccer, so going to a bunch of his soccer games has been great.
Oh, heck yeah!
Yeah, so Dean's 8, and this is his first year playing soccer. He's having a bunch of fun. So for
That's
video
awesome.
game wise, I would say it's all Diablo 3 and Hearthstone for me. Last season of Diablo 3, season 29. Anyone who listens to Squelch knows that I play a fair amount of Diablo 3. And it's been a lot of fun. They introduced a solo self-find mode, which is so much fun. So if you don't know how Diablo 3 works, it's basically nothing matters. It's all loot, right? Like the story, whatever. It's all just running and finding loot. And so what happens as seasons go on, people who do a lot of grouping tend to get a lot more gear because they are running a lot higher level content and that kind of stuff. So this season, what they've introduced is solo self-find, which means you have to find it by yourself. You can't have any of your other characters be finding gear. You can't be finding gear with other players. You can't be trading with other players. So it's all stuff that you have to find on your own with a character that you leveled by yourself. And super excited about it. So playing Crusader, I always play Crusader. And having just a ton of fun this weekend with it. We'll see how much I get to play because, like I said, work is kind of nutty. And then life is kind of nutty. But yeah, so between Diablo 3 and Hearthstone, I say my video game bucket is pretty full. So
Nice. Love to hear it.
So are you planning on switching over to D4 seasons once this final D3 season is over, or is that just not captured you? Because I've heard a lot of people just say that D4 just isn't doing it for them anymore.
Not. So I told my friends in a group chat that I wasn't going to touch D4 until season 5 at the earliest, just to, cause like fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? Like, no, I'm not going to do this again where I spend $70 on a game for it to bust out the gate. And so I decided sit back. It's seasonal. There's no rush for me to play seasonal games. So every 3 months, you start from scratch again. So there's no big rush for me to jump in. I'm like, let me just sit back, see how it plays, see how the seasons go, see how the game plays out. And then I'll jump in, Christmas at the earliest, to see how things are going. And so far, I'm looking pretty smart. Looking pretty smart.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so for now, I would say my non-Diablo, like hack and slash ARPGs, I've been playing Torchlight. Torchlight Infinite, they have a free-to-play mobile that's really good. There's some gotcha elements and some that kind of stuff that you don't have to participate in. So it's really fun. Torchlight's a fun game. So I've been playing that before this D3 season. And then Path of Exile 2, which is coming out, I think, next year, is looking really, really good. And Path of Exile, they really, really do this kind of game really well. So if Diablo 4 turns it around, I'll pick it up in a heartbeat. Like, I think Blizzard does good with these kind of games. They stumbled out the gate with D3, so we'll see what happens with D4. So
I loved Diablo 4 before Season 1.
That's what everyone says.
Pre-season Diablo 4 was so much fun. I enjoyed it so much. And then the season came out, and it just changed the game so much. And it just was not it, man. Like, I wanted to keep playing Diablo, but it just felt like every time I opened it, it was like looking at a wounded deer, you know, like something that should be nerfs, so beautiful and so great, and then it's just so sad and heart-wrenching about the state that it's in. So question about the Diablo 3 season. So the self-find, is it solo only, or can you, with not getting loot, play with other players?
Nope, solo only. Yep.
Okay. And then they're adding that indefinitely, right? After the season, as just an alternate mode to play Diablo 3?
I believe so. So season 30, my understanding of season 30 is they are going to the best that they can, even everything out. So everything is power level as close as they can get. And then they're going to just rotate through seasonal themes. A solo self-find, is that stick? I imagine it will stick around. That's kind of what they've been doing in the past few seasons, is like keeping the cool stuff kind of in the game a little bit. So I imagine that they will keep solo self-find. I don't think that's part of the seasonal package this season. I think it's just they added a cool thing. So they also capped Paragon this season. So Paragon is capped at 800. So again, that evens the playing field out, because now instead of like being able to just grind to unlimited Paragon, it caps it, which actually caps some builds actually as well. So I know
Yes, it does.
So I know Monk has been really neutered to quite an extent, because its survivability drops because they can't get those crazy high Paragon levels. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, D3 is a great game. I recommend it to anybody who wants to play a Diablo game but doesn't want to buy Diablo 4.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, Dan, I have a question. I think all our listeners are curious. Do you have the easiest job in the world? Because you are I believe you said you're a career advisor at a law school. So people just come into your office and they say, you should be a lawyer. Next, you should be a lawyer. Next.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. No, sometimes they don't want to be a lawyer. And then it's like, okay, so what are we going to do with this law degree? Right? So what are your career options? But it's also helping them find that job, find that career path within the legal field. It's a really rewarding job. It could be a super frustrating job sometimes. But yeah, I started during the height, towards the tail end of the recession, 2010, 2011-ish. And boy, it was all hard. I mean, there were no jobs. It was hard for everybody. The market's been turned around. It's been a really, really, really great job the past couple of years. We've done a lot of changes in our office. We've been, a lot of self-reflection on what works, what doesn't work. And so things are getting a lot better. Finding work a lot sooner. Our employment number is getting a lot better as we go. But yeah, I mean, sometimes, we do want to be a lawyer. Boom, done. But like anything though, it's there's a whole lot of variance to it. So yeah.
Sorry, I had to ask. But Doc,
it's a good goof.
What have you been doing in the world that is outside of Hearthstone?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah. So I've actually been pretty busy, and I'm actually going to be busy this weekend as well. So I'll start with that. So this weekend is Magic Con down in Las Vegas, which is only about an hour and a half away from me. So me and a friend and a few of my friends' got an Airbnb and our passes, and we're going to go to Magic Con. I am hoping I can meet up with Papa Hearthstone and get a picture with Papa Hearthstone, because he had said he's going to be there. So I'm very excited to hopefully run into him. And then I will get to see my buddy Brandon Downs, a.k.a. Tom Locke from Swagoi. there as well. And if anyone listening knows who Rod Johnston is, he has a friend by the name of Astral Flame who will also be there. So I'll get to meet him in person for the first time after him being in my Twitch chat for a long time. So that's super dope. I always love meeting online friends in real life. It's like my favorite hobby. Because it's so cool. It's such a pure experience. So that's what I'm doing this weekend as recording today on September 19th. Outside of the game, I've been playing a lot of Forza 5, which has reignited my love for racing games. I used to play a lot of Forza 2 and Forza 3 on like the original Xbox and Xbox 360. Racing games are just so much fun. It's just so much fun to go fast, and it's just a fun arcade racing game to sit down with a couple buddies in Discord and just cruise, do races, whatever.
All right, Doc. I understand what you're saying here.
Yeah.
I'll try to get you on Play for Tempo. Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. A real life friend of mine 2 years ago got a job at a game studio. And I can't remember what the name is right now because it's very close to his. Oh, Heart Machine. Sorry. He got on at Heart Machine, which is very close to his personal studio's name. But if any of you have played the game Astrolight Drifter, I want to say, or Astrolight Drifter, they came out with a new game called Solar Ash. It is on Xbox Game Pass for free. You can buy it for, I believe, $30 or $40. That game is super fun. The mechanics are super cool, so you can either walk around or you can like kind of like skate around the environment, and then if there's rails, you can grind on them. And the whole game is all like movement based, so they're all the puzzles in the game. You have to figure out the timing of when to do certain things in your movement to be able to successfully like complete the puzzle, which has been super, super fun. And there's voice acting and like dialogue options, and it's so crazy because there's just a little teeny small indie studio, but they've put in so much work into this game, and I'm just very happy to play a game that one of my friends who I've watched his game dev career journey for so long, and just get something that I can play of his that isn't in like a beta stage. So it's just really cool to see friends succeed at what they're doing. I've also been playing a lot of Undertale because Blizzlet Game of the Month Club is super fun. I'm still stuck at the same boss fight I was last week, which is right before Act 3. Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of hard because it's like rhythm based almost, and then there's kind of a twist in the third instance of the fight. My car got fixed. Hallelujah! It's been a long time.
Hooray!
Yeah, it's been a long time since I was able to drive my own car. Out of the fear of it breaking itself, not that it wasn't 100% undrivable. I just didn't want to actually make it undrivable. So I just chose not to drive it for a long time.
I've been there. That is the worst. That is the absolute worst. You're like, I gotta get somewhere, but if I do, I might not be able to get anywhere ever again.
Yeah, my turbo failed. Or it didn't fail. It became unreliable. Which the fear was that the turbo would destroy itself and then destroy my engine. So stopped driving my car.
How bad do I need milk?
Yeah. So that's finally fixed. I saw some friends down in Las Vegas this weekend, a friend from back home who I haven't seen in about 3 years. And then I saw a friend who I met when I moved to Southern Utah, who has now moved to Vegas as of like 10, 11 months ago. So my car recently got fixed, right? And the turbo needed replaced and the coolant hoses needed replaced. So we got in my car to go to Vegas. Me, Cortland, my partner, and I. Sorry, Cortland and partner are the same person. I don't know why I made it sound like 3 people. Just 2 people. So we got in my car. I was like, oh, I have the defogger defrost on, which relatively makes sense because the last time I was able to drive my car was when it was cooler down here. So I clicked that off, right? And then we proceeded to drive down to Las Vegas, and it's about an hour and a half drive from where I'm at. And like, man, my AC sucks. It's blowing hot air. And so by the time we got to Vegas to meet my buddies, bless Cortland's soul, we were just dripping sweat profusely because it was 103 degrees outside. My car was blowing hot air in the AC. And it was just awful, right? And on the way back and everything. So then the next day, or 2 days later, when I have to go to work, or no, the next day, sorry, when I have to go to work, on the way home from work, I pressed that button just cause, like what would hurt? Turns out I turned off my AC and just was recycling hot air when my AC was working perfectly fine the entire time.
I'm so sad for you.
Yeah. So when I had discovered that,
I was like, wait a minute, I think I know what's happening here.
Yeah. So when I had discovered that, after Cortland got home from work, I told her, and we both like broke down laughing, almost crying, just because we had suffered for about 3 hours in the immense heat of my car.
Sarah would have murdered me. She would have just murdered me. That'd been the end. But like, well, we had a good run.
Yeah, like we loved driving through the gorge in the shade because it dropped 4 degrees and it was 90. It was like 98 degrees in my car, right? It was like, oh, it feels so good right now. I'm dumb.
See, I might have just told her that, hey, while you were at work, I went and got my car fixed. It's all good now.
Oh, yeah, you lied, right? Like,
no, I told her the brutal honest truth.
And 100% the goof is too good.
It was so funny, man. Oh. It sucked at the moment, but now it's just... Sorry, now it's really funny. Also, fun fact, Jessica is my new dad, and it is Twitter official as of today.
That's nice.
So, yeah, I have a dad again, which feels nice. Sorry, Tito, for my essay of what I've been doing outside of Hearthstone. What have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
I was putting the show notes together, and I was like, do we have enough for a normal length episode? And I said, well, we're a little light here, but I think we'll be okay. I think I underestimated our ability to just kind of vamp for a while or just talk. But when you go to MagicCon, if you can get me either Brian Brushwood or Matt Donnelly's autograph. I don't know if they're going to be there or not, but they could be. I know Matt Donnelly could be because he lives in Vegas. I want them, and I'll pay you for them, so let me know.
Yeah, text me so that I can remember.
Sure.
So I do have a question, actually. I'm sorry. So this is like a PetSmart situation. Is it Magic On or Magicon or is it Magic Con? Very curious.
Okay. So here, let me find my email because I want to answer you as correctly as possible.
It's very important. It's very important.
A magician never tells his secrets.
So
I have Google in front of me here, but I'm like, you know what? I think our listeners care too.
So it is Magic Con.
So it is Magic Con. Okay.
Yep.
Isn't that redundant?
And fun fact, I'll get a cool pin for buying a pass for it.
Hey, I'll take free stuff that you've already paid for. I'm sure they rolled into the pass probably. This free thing you paid for, but we didn't tell you about.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll get like my own like stamped card with like MagicCon 2023 on it and everything too. But it's like that's not free. I paid money for that.
Sorry, Tito, didn't mean to.
No, that's what we're here for. So I survived Hurricane Lee this weekend, which I survived meant I put everything away like a good person to make sure that there was no damage. And then we barely had enough wind we didn't even get the soccer games canceled this weekend. So I did all that work on Friday for nothing, but better than the opposite of not doing the work and then having, something go through my window. But,
yep.
So yeah, my son's also playing soccer the first time. He's 9. And so far, he's had 2 of his 3 practices rained out, and he's had 2 games. So it's been interesting learning on the fly, but it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll see. We're probably not going to get to go to the game this weekend because we have some things to do. But it's fun watching him. It's fun watching him learn as he's going. He's playing defense. He doesn't really like to run and attack the ball, but he's actually done really surprisingly well, given that he doesn't really have a lot of experience with team sports at all, or even soccer. So it's been fun to watch him even just learn. I told him after game one, I said, hey, bud, I know it's kind of boring on defense if everything's down the other end, but you still got to pay attention because when the ball comes down your way, you have to kind of be ready to attack it or get there. And to his credit, the next game, he got right in there and he was paying attention. He was moving. I was pretty proud to see it. But
heck yeah.
Outside of that, I've been playing Undertale as well. When I say I've been playing, I think I played a day and a half of it. It's been fun. It's my game pick, so I definitely had to make sure I got some game time in. I just hit a place called The Lab. I haven't gone in yet. I don't know how far along I am, but it's been interesting. It's been fun, and I look forward to trying to get to the end. I've gone mostly pacifist, but I mean, I apparently you cannot do a full pacifist your first playthrough, and also there's other things that have happened that I already know that I'm not, but I'm still being generally, I'm not fighting very much. I'm usually just trying to negotiate my way through the game. So that's been fun. Yeah, but that's it for me, I think. I think we used up all our time on you there, Doc. So why don't we...
I'm so sorry.
Dude, you're good.
Just a little bit salty there. Well, we talked about you a lot, Doc.
But while we did talk a lot about Doc, why don't we get to know our guest? What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Terrible idea.
I think that's a great idea, Dan0.
I mean, to be fair, I doubt there's very many people out here that listen to Bread and Butter that don't also listen to Squelch. I feel like we've leached off some of the audience that we've gotten from Blizzard or Squelch. So, but there might be like 3 or 4 people that don't know Dan0, so I think they need to know who he is.
Yeah. So Dan0, how did you get started in playing video games, and how did you find Hearthstone?
Oh man, video games. That goes back to... how far back do you want to go with video games? So, my first...
as early as you can remember, I guess.
Burger Time on the Intellivision was the first video game I remember playing. My dad had an Intellivision back in the 80s. I remember playing Burger Time. It's kind of like I don't know, you build burgers. It's not much more to it than that. But like the first actual video game... Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Because
about Burger Time.
Roughly, I'm the same age as Daniel. I'm like 2 years younger than Daniel. What is an Intellivision?
Oh, it's an old console. It's an old console with like a real dopey looking remote. Google it. It has like numbers 1 through 9 on it and like a little funny pad. It's the weirdest looking remote you'll ever see. But yeah, it's just an old console, an old video game console. Yeah. Right.
Oh, so it was an RCA like console.
Yep,
so you would just plug it straight into your TV.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, in television, but my actual like first video games, my first real video game other than like Mario and Duck Hunt would have been Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. Big, huge fan of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. It came with the Nintendo my parents bought, I think. And so I had that and just played it. I was terrible at it, but just like beat my head against the wall until I beat it, and then had like the worst possible ending because it's an old Castlevania game, so you could just die with no consequences except for the ending changed, right? So beat my head against the wall until I beat that game. A whole bunch of RPGs in the 90s. A big fan of the SNES RPG era. Final Fantasy VI is still my all-time favorite video games. Chrono Trigger is up there as well. Secret of Mana, just truly classic, beautiful, amazing video games.
For our listeners, back when we were playing these games that Dan's talking about, we didn't have the internet to go find solutions to the problems. We had to wait once a month for Nintendo Power to come out and give us hopefully a hint. Like there was no like, hey, what's the solution here? If you couldn't figure it out, you couldn't figure it out.
The fun part about Final Fantasy VI, there was some stuff where if you just missed it, you missed it. Those old RPGs, right? Sometimes you just not know a thing was a thing. So I mean, that really kind of like drilled in the like go into every nook and cranny, go through everything. And this was also a time of like random encounters, right? That you couldn't see. So like you'd go off just to see if anything's over to the left or to the right. And you'd have 2 random battles, while you're on your way over there. It was, video games were mean. But But Secret of Mana wasn't random, obviously. You could see the enemies. But yeah, it's a lot of SNES era stuff. And then joined the Navy. Didn't play a bunch of video games then again until really got into tabletop gaming quite a bit. And then didn't get back into like video games, I would say, until Dean was really born. Got into Hearthstone. It was a rainy day at my, we're at a lake cabin. It was a rainy day, so I downloaded. I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a game like Magic, for the phone. And there was, and so here we are.
Heck yeah!
So that Cupcake card back was my first card back. So in case anyone was curious, my first card back was a Cupcake card back. Not sure if that dates me or not. I think that's but yeah.
That's pretty cool. So I added a question because I've always been curious of this and I've never had the opportunity to ask. What was your job / like MOS in the Navy? Sure.
So I was a bosun mate. So a bosun mate is like the original rate, right? There was 2 rates. There was bosun mate and gunner's mate back in like the early days of the Navy, 1700s, right? So bosun mate is general seamanship. So a lot of like line handling stuff, small boat operations, a lot of chipping and painting. You'd be surprised at the amount of chipping and painting that could be done. I was on a small deck amphib, so we kind of carted Marines around. Our ship could go like they had what's called a well deck. Think of like a giant, massive pool that like marine equipment could drive in. So we had marine equipment that would drive in and then we'd be out in the ocean and like equipment could go on and off. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, a lot of work, but it was good. It was good work though. So
how many different knots can you tie?
Not as many as I used to be able to. I mean, I could probably I could still tie a bowline, I could still tie a square knot reliably. Other than that, like, good luck. But, other than those two, more than that, you don't need much more. Like, bowline does everything for you. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Bowline's the basically the catch-all. Like, I don't remember how to do it, but I remember it being important when I was in Boy Scouts.
Yeah. The bowline does everything for you. So, yeah.
So, Dan0, for those who are listening that may not know, what podcast do you host / co-host? And how did that get started?
Squelch, another Hearthstone podcast. So Squelch, yeah. So it got started in if anyone remembers Dills from way back in the TAC days, it got started in Dills' Slack channel, really. I just have made some true, like, honest to God, like, life best friends in that Twitch chat and in that Slack channel. And just kind of, over a couple of years was like, hey, kind of kept on like pestering them and said, start a podcast. Took about a year to get off the ground. And at the time it was the only one. So I asked our friend Nate, who is an attorney, and Nate still won't come on the podcast. And then Enthralman wasn't interested. Matt at Arms at the time was on Hero Power. And then this life wasn't working out. So that didn't work for him. So I finally talked Magooch into it. So Magooch and I started Squelch ourselves, just the two of us. And yeah, it was really just because we wanted a podcast that kind of, I don't know, like we wanted to talk about the show, but we also had ideas of like what we were looking for in a podcast. I'm sure you guys understand the same thing, right? It's like, love listening to Hearthstone podcast, but like, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing, but I kind of want to do my own thing. I think I have something that people might want to listen to. And then you slowly just find your listeners. And we got a big shot from Hat, obviously, pretty early on. TAC was a real early, not TAC, sorry. Coin Concede was real early, like listeners to Squelch, and they shouted us out quite a bit in the early days, which really, really kind of boosted our listeners. And just kind of like grew from there. I just kept on doing our own thing. It's not always easy. You guys know that, right? Like it's hard every week getting this. Getting this show together, getting it edited, getting it out. I mean, it's work. Sometimes you're just tired and you're like, I would rather play video games than do this. But it's great. I love it. So,
well, thank you for sharing that with us. So in the early days of Squelch, y'all were an esports news show. And now it's mostly just the three of you talking about different kinds of food and how you enjoy them. So in your perspective, how did the show evolve from where it started to where it is now?
So esports was one part of it, right? So all of us were huge fans of the esports scene. It kind of what drew we became friends initially because of our love of TESPA. Wednesday night TESPA. They're just truly the best, absolute best. I mean, the early days of Cora and Admiral casting TESPA. It's a bunch of college kids who, with incomplete collections on camera, just goofing their way through Hearthstone. It was beauty. It was amazing. It was some of the best content that Hearthstone has ever created. It kind of grew from that. So it was more than just Hearthstone esports, but it was definitely a big part of what we did. Really what it was, what Magooch and I set out to do, we were like, there's not a lot of short Hearthstone podcasts. We're like, what if we just did 30 minutes or less? We're going to get in and we're going to get out, keep our lives out of it, because who wants to listen and hear about us? We'll just talk about Hearthstone, we'll just do some ladder stuff, some news stuff, some esports stuff. Those first couple episodes were like straight scripted, like honest to goodness, like the show notes were straight up scripted. Like we just read them off our notes, like, and we were in and out in like 30 minutes, and that lasted like 2 episodes. And over the years, it depending on where we were at in the game and what we were one thing we always kind of did was we did what we wanted to do with the podcast. So there was a period of time where it was Enthrallment, Mad at Arms, and myself, where we really weren't always feeling the game. Like there was a parts of the pandemic where I was really just not with the game, just everything was rough. I only just consumed One Piece, and that was all. Yeah. And so it was just like a lot of just goofs and us just like chatting as friends. There was one episode where we didn't talk about Hearthstone until the after show. Like it was but now we've kind of brought it back around. I would say it's the show is definitely Hearthstone focused again. And for the most part over the years, it's very Hearthstone focused. So,
I was very confused this summer when you started bringing the Hearthstone hot deck of the month or week or whatever it was, and you guys were like, "Hey,
Red Hot Aggro Summer."
Yeah, that's right. And then it was like, "Hey, these are the cards you should take, and these are the way you should mulligan, and here's some ideas on matchups." I'm like, "What the heck show am I listening to?"
we do play Hearthstone, so I mean, part of it was like, what do we bring to the table, right? And like, when Enthrallment's truly an incredible Hearthstone player. Like Enthrallment will bounce around. Like he gets upset when he pops out of top 500 during the summer, right? Like he'll hop into top 100 and he'll actually kind of live there for a little while. He's a truly great Hearthstone player. But we all play and we know what we're doing, but we don't always feel like that's the Squelch thing though, right? Like, are people listening to us for like hardcore? Like, are we going to do a better job than Coin Concede in explaining the meta or Vicious Syndicate, right? So if we don't think we can do a better job and we're not really adding like a Squelch, spin to it, like what are we doing, right? So like if we have something that's an interesting Squelch spin on it, like Red Hot Aggro Summer, where we were kind of like doing like, because summers are busy, it was like, okay, let's talk about aggro decks only. Decks that you can like complete your quests quickly, ladder quickly, without having to worry too much about stuff. So if we could put a fun Squelch spin on like traditional Hearthstone content, it's usually what we try and do. Sometimes we just do regular Hearthstone stuff, right? Like one new thing we introduced was News Dormu, which was...
Yes, that's one of my favorite bits. It's one of my favorite bits.
Which is we give the news, which everyone does, right? But I give an arbitrary number of minutes and or seconds for whichever host I have given the news to. So maybe it's Mad at Arms. Like, Mad at Arms, talk to me about the new mini set. You have 35 seconds. So Matt gets 35 seconds. And then maybe I give something to Enthrallment that's just completely arbitrary, some random thing that maybe in 15 seconds. But okay, give me 3 minutes on this topic.
Yeah, so that's my favorite. That's my favorite, when they have nothing to say and they have to fill 3 minutes of airtime. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously clear that you guys do it. You do it the opposite. Like the most news, less time. Less news, more time. And I have a bone to pick with you on this one because we're not a news show either because, again, like you were saying, what kind of voice can we bring to the game? And as the podcast, as bread and butter, I wanted to bring more of an educational voice or try to focus on getting better. And I'm like, well, you can get your news from Coin Concede. You get your news from even Squelch, even from what you guys talk about news. So I'm like, I don't want to sit here focusing on the mini set. We'll talk about it a little bit if it's news or whatever like that, but we're not here to give you the news. You already got that. If you're listening to bread and butter, you're listening to those other shows. But I was like, you know what? It'd be cool if maybe we had like a quick, blitz version of the news. And like, if there's some news that week, maybe we have Doc, go through it real fast or something like that. And then you guys came up with Nor's Domu. And I'm like, crap, now I can't do that.
Oops,
so
sorry.
Thanks, Dan.
No, don't be sorry. It's like the best bit in Hearthstone podcasting. It's so good.
It is funny. I love it. So before we move on, I remember, Doc, I told you there was one more question I wanted to ask, and I forgot to add it. How many different versions of Objection are there?
Oh, yeah, good luck. I have no idea.
I think that's redacted. I did count this week, though. I did count.
What'd you come up with?
It was like 19 or 20. I can't remember the number anymore. I listened to the episode a couple days ago, but it was like 19 or 20 objections, which is more than the first number of the first official counted number of objections that has been recorded.
Well, was it an odd or an even number of the episode of Squelch?
See, I didn't keep track of that, but Dan0, I think that Objection is the ultimate bit in Hearthstone podcasting. And I love it so much, specifically because, everyone's love language for Daniel Sorted Sheldon is to how deep under his skin can you get and how upset can you make him with also knowing that you love him incredibly. And I just love that it is sometimes different, sometimes it's not, and then sometimes it's way longer, sometimes it's a little bit shorter. It's just who knows what Dan0 decides, because he secretly has a folder on his computer with I'm guessing at least 5 different versions of the objection drop, and no matter which version it is, it's perfect because it makes Daniel upset so incredibly much.
Okay, so this is this is what I need you to do. I need you to ask Deck Tech to record one time of him saying objection and insert it into the middle of one of those.
Oh, we did get
he
an
already
objection.
did.
Yeah, we got
He's
already done that.
No, he did the whole. He did the whole. Yeah, he did the whole thing. But it'd be good to have just like one of the objections in the middle. I guess grab it from that. It's just his version of it saying like objection, and then all of a sudden, Deck Tech objection.
whenever we do get a Deck Tech drop, I always am very careful to ask if it's okay to use it, and he's usually very okay with it as long as you use it just once. So he's like, yes, you can use it once. So I'll make sure I use it the one time. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
When I saw that on Twitter, though, I absolutely died, though. It was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, it
also
made me
incredibly
laugh.
Unsafe. I think he was driving.
Yeah, it sure looked like he was. And, Los Angeles isn't especially known for, easy traffic drive-through.
Oh, it's so good, though. It was gold. It was funnier than anything I've done in months. I'll tell you what. The guy is so funny.
And he would have been somebody that would have came into your office and he would have been like, what should I do with my job? And you would say, make cards.
It's true. Yeah, I've been like, you know what you should go do? You should go write patch notes for Hearthstone.
But I have a law degree.
I have a couple of law students that listen to the podcast. I do.
Oh, heck,
a couple
yeah.
that have found out on their own, and a couple who just talk about card games and stuff and found out through that way. But yeah, so
that's
always interesting
cool.
when they discover. Always interesting when they find out that you have a Hearthstone podcast, because you kind of out yourself as a bit of a dweeb. But
see, so I'm lucky. No one that I work with plays Hearthstone. 2 people know what Hearthstone is, but neither of them play it.
Yeah,
but I think that's pretty cool. So Dan0, you are an enjoyer of esports. If you could help make Hearthstone esports relevant again, what would you do?
Sure. So I would just roll it back. I think go back to the Masters Tour days. I think it was great. Go back to the 5, I think it was, I don't remember how many it was. It was 5, 6 tour stops a year, right? Maybe 5 stops. A lot of, so it was a points-based system. It was ladder, and then also previous top 16s. It was previous like tournament finishes, that kind of stuff, right? So go back to that pre-GM system. It was great. Get it back onto Twitch on a regular basis. Like it was so good, and it was just natural, right? It wasn't like overthought, right? Once they kind of got too in their heads about it, it really kind of stopped being really compelling. I'm fine. The current system right now, like I just don't think we have enough content for it, right? Like I want to see more. I want to see those random people out of nowhere just kind of like sneak in and then just like pop up, and make a serious run and have that exciting moment again. And then I want to see more than just those same 8 people over and over. So I'd love to go back and then BlizzCon is back.
Yep.
Get the World Championship back at BlizzCon. Get the World Championship back at BlizzCon. Like give me, 5, 6, big, fun, awesome, huge tournaments again. I understand they probably won't be in person because that was always kind of a logistical nightmare. But if you can get them back in person, awesome. Pavel staring down his opponent is like, instead of like thinking through his turn, is still the best Hearthstone you'll ever watch. Just in these huge, big money situations. And it's just Pavel like looking around the corner. I don't have my video on right now, but like looking around the corner, just staring the other person down. Like that was amazing. Yeah. And so I just roll back. I don't think we need to don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think they had a really, really good system in place. I think GM was really, really good. I firmly believe that if we had a single year of GM on Twitch, it would have been a completely different story. I think YouTube did it all dirty. It was impossible to find. They just weren't where the people were, right? It was like having like a 3 Michelin star restaurant, in a strip mall, right? It was like no one's going there to spend $50 on something. There was
no
it
advertising.
Just wasn't where you just weren't where the people need to be. Yeah. I mean, there was. They did push it, and then the specialist system that started off was no help. Whoopsie, and there's a world where the specialist format, which was, in case you didn't know, the specialist format was a single was one. You brought one class, one deck, and you had like a sideboard. And then you played best of 3 with this one. And unfortunately, it coincided with just the worst warrior meta. It was 29 cards of removal, and then
it was so bad.
1 card which added cards to your deck. At the end, it was brutal. It was just absolutely brutal. And so you just had these crazy high level games of Hearthstone that would last like 45 minutes or an hour where no one did anything. It was just armor pass. Yeah. And then someone would win. And then they had to play the Warrior Mirror again. It was just like, it's almost like they were like, okay,
it's like,
how can we make sure nobody 7. Ever wants to watch this?
Do they play Dr. Boom with the hero?
So
yes,
awful.
they do.
It was so bad.
Do they shuffle bombs into the opponent's deck? Yes, they do.
It was like, we went from like Spell Druid with Yogg, where just craziness could happen, to just hero power pass.
It was so
think for
bad.
75 seconds. Hero power pass. Like, why are we roping? What are you doing? Don't do this to us. You can just move on. You don't need to rope.
And to be fair, the specialist format had some potential. They just put it at the absolute worst time with the absolute worst decks out there. And they could have done something different. They could have made it like, well, okay, instead of having a 5-card sideboard or whatever, make it so that way 15 cards had to be different in each of the decks or something. Like, really make it so that way.
I think the classes are a big part of Hearthstone. I think moving esports away from bringing multiple classes takes part of what makes Hearthstone away from it. I wouldn't have thought that before Specialist happened. Like when they announced Specialist, like, okay, I get it. This is something I see what they're doing. I understand it's much more like Magic, which is a much more established, card game, professional card game. I understand why they did this. I think this will be really interesting. But then as it like evolved and as it happened, you were like, oh, this doesn't really feel like Hearthstone. The Conquest, I feel like really feels like Hearthstone. Like I think again, it's like you hit it on you hit it best second time. Like Last Hero Standing was first, which you could just sweep with a deck, which was kind of fun sometimes, but like sometimes not. But Conquest is great. You get to see all the different classes. It requires, especially when you get to like the, best of 5, where you have to find that, what is that not great deck that I have to bring? And how do I find the win with it? How do I, is there a targetable deck? Can I target a deck, right? Those kind of things that come into Conquest are super duper fun and interesting. That you really lose a specialist, I feel like. So being able to soft target or find that most interesting fourth deck, I think is really fun. Really, really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan0, some people should know that once upon a time you were in a ska band.
Mm-hmm.
So first part of this question is, when is the ska Dan0 footage going to be released?
Never.
And second part is, can you tell us about your band?
Sure. So it was like a college band. So they were friends from high school. And they had a little ska cover band. They were a punk band for the most part. And then they had, like, in order to like fill out the Legion show, because we did a bunch of Legion shows back then. Grew up in Nebraska, some small town in Nebraska, the tri-state area of Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota. And they started a ska cover band to kind of fill out the Legion shows a little bit. So like, to find out, they would open with a ska cover band, and they would have another band, and they would headline with their punk band. And so they did that for a couple years, and then they invited me and a couple friends who were like really into ska and really into like jazz and that kind of stuff to join the band. I was like, sure, great, I definitely will, but let's change the name and let's stop being a cover band. Let's actually just write our own music. And so we did that, and we did that for 2-3 years, maybe. It was a ton of fun. We toured around, didn't like tour, but we did shows up and down, around Nebraska, South Dakota, and Iowa. Had a ton of fun with it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Recorded an album. It was great. So,
do you still have it?
I have it. Yeah. It's on the internet.
Is it really?
So somebody knows about it.
Somebody I know that's not you.
It's yeah.
Would I be?
Yeah. Which could be a lot of people, because you and I know a lot of the same people.
Yes, we do. Does their name rhyme with?
The quality is really poor.
Blanul Dormage Meldon?
That's a wonderful question. I'm not going to say who it is.
I will look at the Venn diagram.
But no, the quality is really poor.
And I'll ask if I could have access, because I love music and would love listening to a friend and their music.
What did you play, Dan?
Put the trombone.
Yeah.
And wrote the horn lines.
Yep. Dan0, I love you more and more every day, my man. So, Dan0, everyone knows you're the king of comedy. So... is there a joke you'd like to set up now so that we can have you in 6 months from now for the punchline?
I saw this in the show notes, and like, really, I'm just so bad at telling stories that it just happens naturally. I couldn't set up a joke now if my life depended on it. This is a reference to the Blizzlet goof where Dan was like, something funny about you. And I was like, hey, I almost died one time. And they were like, where's the funny bit? And then I forgot the funny bit until like, it was like, I don't know, like it was on a different podcast. I remember I mentioned the punchline on Squelch, I think. And Daniel was like, what? That is actually funny. I was like, oops, my bad.
Because didn't you drop that before Daniel was a co-host on Squelch? And then the punchline was revealed after he was a host on Squelch, right?
Oh, man. I don't even remember what the timeline was of me being on Blizzlet and him coming on. So he guested on Squelch before I was on Blizzlet. I don't remember, and he'll tell it like I was the one that asked him to join Squelch, but really it was the other way around.
He asked to join, Daniel asked to join Squelch?
Yeah, I mean, he says I asked him, but really he inferred very strongly that he wanted to join Squelch. That's the way I believe it. He inferred it very strongly, and I was like, well, I'm not going to say no to Storm Rage.
It is a rabbit hole worth exploring.
Yes,
it is a rabbit hole worth exploring. Gosh, it's never stopped being funny. But yeah, that was, I don't remember the timeline of that exactly, but it was completely accidental. And mostly because of like just the way Just a Guy and Storm Rage stared at me over Discord. I was like, wait, what was I talking about again? Why are they laughing? This is funny.
That's one of my favorite bits of yours, Dan0. So more music related questions now. Have you listened to the new Dury album, Suburban Legend?
Oh man, I haven't. It's on my list too, but work is super busy. I've got like, in case you couldn't tell, I have like ADHD, like what? All the ADHD. No. And so I know, right? It's a big surprise to everybody who's ever met me. And really, I can't.
Dan,
what helps me? Yeah,
you do a Hearthstone podcast. Of course, you have ADHD.
That's pretty good
statement. And metal helps me concentrate. So like when I really need to like actually be like dialed in at work, I listen to metal, and it like the like metal or like really heavy classical
so when
stuff.
You say when you say metal, what kind of metal are you talking about?
Yeah,
because there is a big difference.
Sure. Usually symphonic type of stuff, right? So like Glory Hammer, that kind of stuff, right? So,
nice.
Yeah.
Slightly.
So yeah, no, really, it's been mostly that.
So slightly easier question. What is your favorite Dury song?
It's a terrible question. I couldn't name a single favorite song of any band. I don't know any song names. Yep, I couldn't name a single. I think.
So what's your favorite verse of a Dury song? Does that make it easier?
I don't know song. I don't know lyrics. I can't hear lyrics. I have to read the lyrics along with the song in order to actually hear them.
Oh, interesting.
My brain doesn't.
Okay. But while he can't hear lyrics, he can smell color.
I can't do that either. No, but no, I can't. Lyrics don't. I don't hear lyrics. If I like read along with it, like if I read like the lyrics along with it. So if like the song I really want to listen to, like Unleash the Archers. So Unleash the Archers are a super, super cool band. You should all go listen to their last 2 albums. They're amazing. It's the same story over for 1,000 years. Really fun stuff. And I wanted to like know the story. So I actually just like pulled up the lyrics and listened to both albums back to back one day. And then just read the lyrics to get the story about what's going on for Unleash the Archers' last 2 albums. But yeah, I can't hear lyrics, and I don't remember song albums, song titles. I couldn't name a single song title, that kind of stuff. My brain just doesn't doesn't stick.
Well, you don't.
Go ahead, Tito.
I said, so you don't appreciate Queensryche Operation Mindcrime.
Can't say. I mean, maybe I do. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I'm glad I learned something new about you, but I'm also sorry at the same time, like, because you're someone who I know who enjoys music, so I imagine that makes the act of enjoying music a lot harder.
No, not at all. No, because I can enjoy the music parts that I know and understand and love, right? So like for me, like I was, in band, it was like the musicianship of the instruments, really, right? So like from like I'll listen to like Unleash the Archers and Rush and like the drums, like just like both those bands. The first, like the Unleash the Archers, not their most recent, but their second one, the opening song of that. Go listen to that and just don't be like, this drummer is criminally underrated. It's art. It's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. And Rush, with Neil Peart, like, holy smokes, right? I can listen to Rush.
So fun fact I just learned the other day is that the flavor text for Dance Floor for Paladin is something along the lines of, well, I don't think Rush would be here. Because it gives like me and Rush, and it's never mind.
Yeah,
so Dan0, are you then someone who at live concerts watches like a favored instrument and just watches how they play it the entire time?
Oh, I was someone who danced at concerts, right? So like I was always either in the pit or I was like, if it were ska, I was dancing. Yeah, I very rarely I guess with AFI, there was an AFI show in the 90s that I went to where I accidentally like Davey Havoc and I like headbutted by accident.
Oh,
that
that's
was
cool.
kind of a cool moment. I was in the front row, this little venue called the Cog Factory that was a fire trap in Omaha, Nebraska. It's a ton of fun. But yeah, usually I was like, as far as like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I want to let you know that I will be seeing Dury for the second time in November, and I'm very excited because I love them, and they're from your neck of the woods, right? Because didn't you say that you get to listen to them on the radio?
Yeah. The current here in the Twin Cities place.
I'm so jealous of that. Okay. So last interview question, which is probably the most important question of all Hearthstone podcasting history. So, Dan0, is Magooch real?
Very real. I was just talking to him the other day. One of my honest to goodness best friends. Like, I absolutely love Magooch. Yeah, and truly one of the funniest people I've ever, Like, Squelch became like we didn't intend to make a comedy podcast. Magooch is just that funny. It became a comedy podcast because Magooch is just hilarious. And then Enthrallment joined Magooch and I, and Enthrallment just laughs at everything. And so it just kind of became a comedy podcast over the first, 10 episodes where it was just like, we enjoyed laughing more than we enjoyed anything else. That's what we did.
Heck yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
Well, Dan0, I got a little bit of bad news for you. We're about an hour in to the episode.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. You are fine, but the problem is we just reapplied to get into the content creator program, and we need to get this up to 70%. So we're going to be here a little while longer because we have some Hearthstone things to talk about. And I think it's time to get into the news a little bit. One of the biggest items of news, I think, that has kind of flown under the radar is that Matt London has taken a position on the They call it the unannounced, but they've announced it. So I don't know why they call it the unannounced.
I think it's because we don't have a title.
The survival game. Sure, but they've announced it. They said, hey, we have a survival game. And then they say, it's unannounced. No, you announced it. You just didn't tell us what it was called. But Matt London has been huge for modes like Mercenaries. Whoops, never mind. Duels, Arena, Battlegrounds. He's been really a driving force in the modes, even solo content. Now he's gone. He's moving on to that team. So, what are our thoughts on that? Because Matt's been great, but now are we kind of worried again about these other modes being forgotten, or do we feel like he's done enough groundwork to that people are going to still have their voices heard in these other modes?
Do you want to go first, Dan0?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah and no. So like the turnover has been like Hearthstone has done an incredible job of hiring developers. It's not the first time we've seen developers move on to other places from Hearthstone. I know they're in the middle of hiring a developer right now. So will there be large shoes to fill when now that Matt London's moved on? Yeah. But like, are there also like incredibly capable devs on that team right now? Yeah. So, yeah. So
what I worry about with that is that we've heard about a bunch of people leaving, like Liv left. A few other people have left, and we haven't heard about people replacing them. So it feels like a lot of the, hey, you guys can handle it, and other people absorbing the jobs while doing their own jobs. And there's only so much of that you can do before you start losing
100%.
Even more talented people. And that's what worries me is that are we going, like we just lost Alkali, not because of anything bad at Hearthstone, but she moved on to a different position. But like we haven't heard about who's the new director yet. I don't think, right?
There was someone who did some LinkedIn digging.
Someone go digging in to figure out who the director is.
I forget the name of the person who had the tweet and the person who is the assumed director, but someone did LinkedIn digging and assumedly has found the new Hearthstone director. So technically speaking, like, yes, there have been people leaving. Yes, there haven't been visible people saying, hey, I've just got onto the Hearthstone team, whatever. Not everyone has social media, as hard as that is to believe in the year of our Lord 2023. But like Dan0 said, all of the devs on the team right now are just absolutely killing it in what they're doing for their job. And I have nothing but my full faith in the current dev team in the direction that they're taking Hearthstone. And they what the pipeline is like a year and a half in advance. So it's going to take us almost 2 years before we get to content that Matt London didn't touch in some form. Like, yes, it is.
Yeah,
I could see where it is worrisome to not have like the visible, like, hey, I've started here, and like knowing that the team is full rather than it being like a sparse team. But I feel like for the people that we know who are on the team are just people we know that are just killing it on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Yeah. But I feel like that number of folks is getting smaller and smaller. And I hear what you're saying. Maybe not everyone's on social media 100%. And stuff like that. But like, we lost Chalky, we lost, Alkali, we've lost Matt London. I'm sure we're going to hear about other people moving on to other things because they have the opportunities to. And we're not. It's not a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 replacement of these folks. And that's scary to me because, like you were just saying, yeah, Matt, they may be a year and a half out. Great. And maybe the next year and a half is going to be great for duels and for arena, but what happens after that when there's nobody keeping up with that and all that? So I think Matt was a person that really heard the community and really was active, especially for like those communities, the arena community, the duels community that doesn't really feel heard. And he changed that. So I'm worried specifically about them. And I know there's already worry right now before he even announced this, that arena's having some major issues and becoming stagnant, and content creators like Judge and other people are starting to diversify more and get away from arena. So I feel like arena's not in a great spot, and losing the main person in that is scary.
Yeah, and that's fair. I agree. I know that Enthrallment and I talked about duels quite a bit on Squelch and how stagnant it feels. Because it does feel stagnant. Like, duels hasn't really got a really true update in quite a bit. And so, 100%. What you're saying is 100% accurate. And like, that team needs to make sure that it's full because it is very, very successful. And while I trust the devs, I don't trust Blizzard.
Yeah.
Right? So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing is we know that our development team is really, really good and very passionate, but then there's the unfortunate side of just businesses being the way businesses are when they get to this size. But I mean, the dev team's still super good. So no matter how large or small the team is, I still have like full faith in them doing the absolute best that they can with the amount of resources they have available to them.
And we'll talk about the dev team more in a little bit, but let's talk about the mini set. We have a new mini set. It came out. It's called The Fall of Ulduar. The whole theme is that Yogg has escaped from his prison and has gone everywhere for a while there. He overtook social media, which was a lot of fun. And Yogg Out or something like that was great. It was a lot of fun for a week, and now we have this mini set. So we're not going to go through all the cards. You can, like you said, you have other shows for that. But what are our general thoughts on the mini set? I'm kind of excited about it. Although I don't think it's going to be that impactful, all things considered. I think there's a couple cards that are strong. I think there's a couple cards that are interesting, but I don't feel like it's going to have a major impact on the meta as a whole. What are your guys' thoughts?
So I have played a couple games with the Anomalies. Granted, I didn't play with any of the new cards. I do think Anomalies are a lot of fun, and I mean a lot of fun. And I haven't had any that have felt like they have drastically changed the way that the game is played. Granted, I haven't had like the players swap hands. I haven't had any like that, but I've had both players have +1 attack on their turn. Both players start with Yogg in their hand. And I forget the other one. I've only had 3, but not every mini set is going to be the most impactful when it comes out. Because what they're doing, right, is they have this trail that they're leading us on for the year, right? And so for the first 2 expansions, they're making breadcrumbs that connect all of the sets and all the classes and themes, generally speaking. They're trying to connect everything. And then the last one is a little 50-50 where it can kind of connect to what's still out, but it's also a peek into the future of what's going to come in the next set. So things may not seem impactful now, but like when the next set comes out, we can be like, oh, this card everyone thought was bad was just bad because the rest of its package hadn't come out yet. And now the package is here. And oh my goodness, this card is way better than we ever thought it was going to be, you know?
Yeah. I played a couple hours this evening after I got home from work and got dinner ready, then played for a couple hours. It did not feel impactful. I played the new Yogg rogue, the Tendril rogue. I don't think those are good. I didn't think they'd be good, and they did not feel great. It kind of feels like you get them to 10 and then you hope that the pyroblasts go to your opponent's face. Like there's a bunch of just absolute bust spells, and because they're not truly random and you're not getting more than, you have to work to get more than one at a time. You don't get that like big push of randomness that can make random really good, right? Like I think I said this on Squelch, like 1 random spell is bad, 10 random spells is broken, right? So like, how do you make those tendrils? I don't know, it didn't feel great. I won games, I lost some games. Yogg is very good. Yogg is very, very good. That is a bananas card. That's going to be in every single control deck. That is like, you don't take tendrils. You don't need tendrils. I mean, if you're desperate for like something, if you have an empty hand in your control deck and you're just desperate, you take tendrils, I'm sure. But boy, that card is good, and that's going to be in every single control deck, I think. I think that card is super duper.
Think about how broken tendrils would have been in last season of Twist.
Well, there's a like there. It's so like that. So the part of the problem with Twist, right, is you have different design philosophies and different power levels, right? That's kind of where you see like Rogue and Warlock really overshine in Twist.
No, I'm talking specifically last season where we had
the previous one. Oh, sure, yeah.
Because there were
I didn't play a ton of that one, so
because you were only getting the ones specifically for your class, right? So that probably would have given you just like the same things over and over again. It wouldn't have been very random. So I'm kind of
I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, so underwhelmed, I would say. Underwhelmed. I felt that meta needed to shake up. I don't think we got it. But it's early days. Like, a week from now, don't be like, oh, Dan, you said tendrils are bad, and that the meta didn't shake up, and like the tendrils are great, and the metas, I mean, I could be completely off base. This is off of 2 hours of play on a Tuesday evening, so like, don't hold my feet to the fire if I'm wrong. But yeah, I would say first impressions, weak, and really not a lot of meta shift. But I mean, again, early days, so.
And I've been trying to do the Shadow Priest. I've only got a couple games in it, but I'm excited about the cards that they gave us, but I don't think they're going to be as impactful. Just playing with them, there's the legendary that it gives you a shadow spell and does damage when an undead dies, but you have to have a board that sticks, or you have to have that stick, and that basically has taunt on it. So far, I have not had a lot of success with it, so I'm a little underwhelmed. But again, we'll see. It's early. But what classes do you guys think got better? I mean, I know we said it's been kind of underwhelming, but there's been some movement. Any thoughts on better
Warrior
or worse? Yeah, Warriors. Yeah,
Warrior got better. Got another tool.
Yeah,
couple more tools.
Which Warrior was getting better regardless, right? Because they got a bunch of help with the recent buffs and balance changes and everything. And so, yeah, no, I for one will bend the knee to our new Warrior Overlords.
Yeah, that's what you got it.
Yep, they're gonna be the first ones nerfed. I think in a couple weeks.
It's gonna be Hunter. Hearthstone just has it out for Hunter right now. Hunter's gonna get nerfed again for some reason. Crushed to 10. Crushed to 10. I'm calling it now.
They keep nerfing Hunter, but it's still good.
I'm happy with where Hunter is at. I don't know that Hunter needs a nerf really anymore. I think it's just a good class with a really good deck. Like, that happens, right? Like, there's no reason for it's a good deck, and I mean it's been good deck for a while, so I could see wanting the nerf bat hard, but I don't. It's hard to feel bad losing to Hunter. Like you lose to a good deck, you're like, oh, whoops, crushes 16, they pulled it out, I lose. What are you gonna do? So.
Yeah, but I think the Warrior cards are going to be nerfed pretty, at least something in Warrior. Maybe not the cards in the mini set, but sanitize. So I was listening to Walk to Work the other day, and Ray was saying that, hey, sanitize, yeah, it's a good card, but it's just something that Warrior could already do, so it's redundant and all that. No, sanitize is a really good card. And the other one that copies a minion that's been damaged, there's just so much potential there that's going to be good. But enough being sad about Warrior. What is the card that you're most excited about from the new set? Dan, how about you? How about yourself?
The card I'm most excited about? I mean, it's probably Yogg.
Yeah.
The mini set, yeah, it's probably Yogg. Yogg is super cool. I mean, it's a different kind of Yogg, right? It does Yogg things without doing like crazy Yogg things. So like it does like the sane Yogg things, right? Where it clears it does things that Yogg has done in the past, different varieties of Yogg. You don't get the super fun, like crazy spell swings that we get with older Yoggs, but it's still a fun Yogg. And I think that's probably one I'll probably play it the most as well, if I had to guess, especially the kind of decks I like to play. So
yeah,
Yogg.
and I'm going to say Yogg. Yogg is just one of the like Hearthstone GOAT cards, like he's just a very, very fun card in Hearthstone, a very fun character in Hearthstone. And I'm glad he broke out because it's been a long time without having Yogg around in Standard, and I'm excited to get to play with my Tentacle Boy.
I'm a little different direct. I mean, I'm very excited for Yogg, but I'm kind of excited for Connectivity, which is a 2-mana shaman spell that also targets the adjacent minions. So this is Zentimo on a spell, and I think there's going to be some shenanigans had by that. I think we're going to see some Ragnaros decks happen in there where you get the you play this plus Jive Insect or something along those lines and get the multiple rags early. I think it's going to be fun. I think there's some potential there. I think we're going to see Edelweiss do some interesting things with it as well. But,
yeah.
I don't know. I think we've already talked about the cards that'll tilt us. I think the Warrior cards are just going to really kind of go there. I think we should probably move on to the main topic. What do you think tonight, Doc?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. An hour and 17 minutes in.
That's okay.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dan0, so we love it. You've been so great. It's been so much fun already. So thank you.
So I'm gonna give you guys a little behind baseball. The reason why Dan is on tonight is because I saw Anomalies, and Dan is typically a lover of things Yogg and randomness and Yogg box, and like, hey, I could take Exact Lethal or I could play the Yogg box. I'll play the Yogg box. It used to be a thing on his stream and everything. So
it's true.
My thought was, I was like, hey, we'll have Dan on. Dan's going to be like, oh, I can't wait to play Anomalies because they're going to spice up the game as randomness. And I said, hey, what are your thoughts on Anomalies? He's like, I don't know yet. We'll see. Like, well, that was not the response I was expecting. But Dan, why don't you, for our listeners, why don't you describe Anomalies for them, if you may?
Sure. So it's an effect that starts, it's a random effect that affects both players, happens at the beginning of the game. It is both players have the same thing happen to them. And yeah, it kind of affect the game as little as both players' cards are golden, or it can affect the game where both players have like upgraded hero power, right? So it's like become super powerful stuff or pretty or nothing. So yeah, it's just like a random little thing that happens at the beginning of the game.
I'm actually a little disappointed because they had that one you were just talking about, Your Eyes Betray You, which is both players' cards start golden. I think if you were playing with an all golden deck, your deck should be plain.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That'd be the ultimate flex.
I mean, that would specifically be targeting just a couple people like
Matt.
Blister Guy, but yeah.
Matt. Blister Guy.
Yeah. So for right now, for this first week, anomalies are on 100% of the games. And then for the rest of the next month and a half or so, it's 25%. There's also a card Cho'Gall, which came in the mini set, that will trigger a anomaly 25% of the time. And then if both players have Cho'Gall, then you definitely have an anomaly. And if there's a chance, depending on which week it is, that you may get two anomalies if both people are playing Cho'Gall and there's another anomaly. So they're interesting. They're here now. We've all got a chance to play with them a little bit. So what were your thoughts? Let's start with Dan. Dan, what were your thoughts ahead of this? I think we already talked about it a little bit, and now that you had a chance to try them, what are your thoughts now?
So ahead of it, I really was trying to keep an open mind on it. Like I don't like this kind of stuff in standard. I like it when I can control it and I want to do it, and I can impose my crazes on somebody else. But having imposed crazes on both players in standard, which is the more sane mode, it felt like it wasn't a great fit. But I don't know what the devs know. And so I'm not going to make that assumption right from the word go that this is going to suck. I don't know. Playing with it, I would say for the most part, very little impact on the game. I did have one game where I was playing a warrior and we had the upgraded hero powers that turned into a nothing game because they just tanked up every turn. And that was unfun. So that wasn't great. But other than that, I would say, so I think I've had 7 or 8 of these looking at them already. And, the discover new hero power was interesting. The upgraded hero power was a bit of a bummer. I was playing rogue. They were playing warrior. That wasn't cool. Both players getting the gear shift in their opening hand. It's actually really interesting when you play it, So yeah, I would say for the most part, it's not really impacting the game a whole lot. So fine. Yeah. I don't dislike it. Now there are going to be times when both players are going to start with Yogg in their hand and then it's going to decide a game and that's going to feel real crummy. So that kind of stuff where the game is out of, it doesn't feel, for me, standard doesn't feel the place for that, but I also understand why they're doing it. It is just for the week. And then I don't know if I'm a big fan of it, of the small percentage chance of it happening to the end of the next expansion or not. I'll know more after this week is over. But I like the idea of being able to put Cho'Gall in your deck, right? And being able to enforce that on the other player. That's fun for me. Being able to make the other player uncomfortable is part of the fun of Hearthstone. And so a card like Cho'Gall can make the other player uncomfortable, and that's kind of fun. And both people are having Cho'Gall to make it 100% chance. That's also great. That's super good flavor. So yeah, I don't hate them so far. They've been, for the most part, not a whole lot of impact on the game. So yeah.
You want to make people uncomfortable, but you don't really play a whole lot of Control Priest, so I'm confused.
I do play Control Priest is for smart people. I play Control Mage and Control Shaman, where the dum dums go to play Control. So,
how about Doc yourself? What are your thoughts ahead of time and going into it now?
Yeah, so I really liked Anomalies in Battlegrounds. Granted, before today, we only got 3 anomalies revealed to us. I was optimistically hopeful, just because that's kind of just how I am to a personal fault. So I was excited to what the anomalies could bring, and then after playing with the anomalies, not underwhelmed per se. That feels like too heavy of a phrase, and I can't think of the right phrase. Yes, yeah, exactly. I am just whelmed. Which there was one point where I looked up where the phrase overwhelmed and underwhelmed came from. It was like the filling of a trench with water or something like that. It was very similar to that concept. But yeah, just whelmed. They can be fun. There's also times where it feels like it does absolutely nothing. I feel like the one that had affected the game the most, I was playing not Control Warrior. I was playing Mech Rogue versus a Control Warrior and it was both players have one extra attack on their turn. So it let me get in a little bit more chip damage, and by a little bit I mean like maybe 4, and I still won by like turn 6 or 7, which unfortunately Control Warrior doesn't really start to pop off till like turn 8, 9, 10, when they can start comboing off and getting their OTK and stuff in. And the one that literally felt like it did absolutely nothing was discovering a hero power. I was mech rogue and discovered the Death Knight hero power and used it 0 times and still won by turn 6 with no new cards, by the way. So, I mean, sorry if that's a little bit degenerate, but it's just the list I was running didn't have any new cards. And so I didn't take any out to put in to try to make something with new cards. Because I've still never got the orange icon, or what do you call Legend, Dano?
Legend, the class?
Yeah,
when you get to Legend?
because you're colorblind, right? So when you see you see Legend, like, what do you call it for yourself?
Legend looks like Legend. I call it Legend, but like shiniest silver is like whatever like the rank before Legend is. I call it shiniest silver because they're all silver. And they're just all like different varies of shiny silver. So I'll say like the shiniest silver is whatever it is before Legend.
So I'm currently second shiniest silver, and I've never been Legend. So not I honestly don't have a lot of time to try to push for that on a regular basis. I've just been playing a list that I know that works for me, and I know how to play it, and so I've just been playing it. So it has no new cards. But I guess, the long and the short of it is, I think anomalies are fun. They're not as impactful as I had originally hoped. Granted, I haven't high rolled into any of the more high rolly ones, but I think they add a fun flair to standard. I understand the sentiment of them adding a layer to the game that feels forced upon, because they are, but it's only for a week, and then it becomes not a guaranteed chance of it happening. Granted, if you both run Shogal or one of you run Shogal, it kind of changes it a little bit, but it's something we have to deal with now till next week, and then after that, it'll happen every once in a while, and I think that's okay. I think having this kind of crazy stuff in standard is good if it's not constant. So this week, there's going to be some growing pains and stuff with standard, but overall, I think the devs being willing to try this and experiment with the standard experience is a good idea. Because it's very possible that this could technically be a test run or a precursor for something that could affect us in a future expansion.
I say one of these, the anomalies that really caught me off guard for being very impactful. I ran into Opportunity Knocks, which is the first card drawn on a player's turn is one they can afford to play. When you're playing Rogue, it's a whole lot of 0 cost spells that do nothing. So like that is a bummer. Like I got that, I was like, okay, this will be really interesting. And I was playing against like a druid that just curved through their deck. And I'm like, oh, look at the prep. Sweet. I'm like, I really need to start drawing other stuff here. Because like part of like what you're doing with Rogue is cheating stuff out with those cards. And when you don't draw the cards, you can cheat out with your cheat out cards because you can't play them on your turn. You never get to those cards. It was interesting. It was just the one game, so I can't say for sure that like it's not going to be different next time I play it. But that one felt surprisingly like I was like, okay, this will be interesting. And I was like, oh, it's not something that costs that much. Like on turn 3, you're not drawing a 3-cost spell. On turn 3, you're drawing prep. And you're like, I really didn't need another prep because I already have a prep in my hand. Yeah,
that certainly sounds like a very bad low roll, my man. And I'm so sorry.
I was like, I needed a Phantom Knives. Where was the Phantom Knives? I think I won that game. If I'm being honest, I think I still won that game. Go. But it's still it was one of those ones. But that Rogue deck that I was playing, it's like it just draws so quick. It's all that deck does. So like it didn't really impact a whole lot because I just drew so much. But yeah, it felt awkward, and I was like, but maybe that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Uncomfortableness, and in a comfortable format. Yeah. Did not hate it.
And what about yourself, Tito?
I was excited when I heard about this. This sounds fun. It sounded interesting. The ones we saw were interesting, Yogg in hand and stuff like that. And, it just sounded good. And honestly, when playing with it, there were games where I completely forgot that there was an anomaly. I would be on turn 3 or 2, 4, but like, oh wait, what's the anomaly? So I would have to go look. So I don't think they have. And Core even came out and said like these are not designed to have major impacts. They're just designed to add a little bit of flair, a little bit of spice. And I think they're true to form there. I think they did a very good job of giving us things that possibly. I mean, you have the occasional outlier like, hey, that warrior got tanked up or whatever, but for the most part, they just. But to your point before, where you said, well, if you both get Yog's going to win the game or something like that. I had that particular matchup, and I was losing, and well, I tried to play Yogg, and Yogg didn't save me, and I lost anyway. So,
praise be to Yogg.
Praise be to Yogg. So I think that they accomplished just to give a little bit something different, maybe a little more to think about, and not. So this was going to lead into our next question, which is these things affect both players, and there's been so much negativity by the vocal minority on Twitter and Reddit and whatever about, hey, I can't believe they're doing this, and this is going to affect the game, it's going to change things, but it affects both players, and there's no way to plan into them. There's no way to say, well, I'm going to play aggro because that's clearly going to be the right thing to do with the anomalies I'm getting, but you don't know what your anomalies you're getting. And unless your name is like McBannerface, Meaty, Dreadeye, No Hands Gamer, whatever, who cares? It's like you're not playing for top 16. It only takes the top 16 in there. So let's bump it out to 32 per region. So let's say this is covering, like, there's probably about 100 people at max that need to actually care about how much this is going to affect their climb, right? So it's fun.
Yeah and no. I don't think we discount people's climb, even if they're casual, right? Because it's still important to them, especially if you only get to play a few games, and those few games can get kind of like, maybe not, I'm not gonna say wrecked, but can kind of, the expectation might not be met because of something like this. But again, I think you're gonna have to look for the bad to really dislike it. But again, like, human nature is to remember the bad things and forget the good things, right? So like, remembering that tank up's going to happen more often than me remembering the time that I cheese out a druid win with druid, right? Or whatever it was. So,
but this is what bothered me the most, is that people have decided before these even came out that anomalies were going to be bad for them.
Yeah.
Instead of enjoying it. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to have a crappy time, and you get to the party, you're going to have a crappy time, because you already decided that you have a crappy time. And that's, I think, a lot of this what happened here is, instead of just saying like, hey, the best part about Hearthstone is a digital card game where we can do some things that you can't do in paper card games. And this is one of those things that they can do. And instead of just having your mind made up going into this, if more people would have just said, all right, let's see how it is, instead of making up that decision before we went in, I think this could have been a net positive. But there's been just so many people have been like, oh, this is going to be bad. So now they're going to just expect to be bad, and they're going to have a bad game where they get tanked up, and they're going to be like, oh, that was bad.
And
mindset matters.
Yep. Mindset does matter. And the people that can't find the joy in something that's different for a short period of time, let them be, like, don't let their experience like yuck your own yum, like, if you enjoy anomalies, fantastic, have fun, have a ball, play as many games as possible. And if you don't, like, I'm sorry that this is where Hearthstone is right now, but if you look back on it, you've had a lot of Hearthstone without anomalies. So let the people that have something that they enjoy, maybe more, or just enjoy in general, like, let them have their fun with it, because it's not going to last forever. It's going to go straight back to what you expect and what you want out of Hearthstone very soon. It's a very short period of time where the anomalies are actually going to matter. And you know what? That's okay, because it's only going to be a short period of time. It's not going to be forever. It's not going to be like Specialist. We'll get to go through 3 games in less than 30 minutes. Like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And just enjoy the game how you enjoy the game. If it's not how you enjoy the game right now, that's okay. It will come back to regular standard.
Okay, so that's a good point, though. You just said that this will not go on forever, but it will, at least for a while, because Cho'Gall is still out there. So there's still a chance out there. So this brings me to a question I have for you guys. So we have Norse Dormu, which is, hey, if both players in there have Norse Dormu in their deck, turns last, 20 seconds or whatever it is. And it's like Speed Hearthstone, which I love. It's a lot of fun. Now, when Norse Dormu day comes around, and you put Norse Dormu in your deck, it's very disappointing when you play your 3 games or whatever, and the other persons do not have Norse Dormu in their deck. So, in that case, it takes both people to opt in. Now, with Cho'Gall, you have a 25% chance of getting an anomaly, even if the other player isn't opting in. And there's been a lot of discussion about that. We don't have to get too into detail about people's feelings on that. We've already kind of covered that. But what do you guys think? Should Norse Dormu work more like Cho'Gall, where if you have Cho'Gall, if you have Norse Dormu in your deck, there's a quarter of a chance that you play Speed Hearthstone? And if both of you have it as 100%? Or should Cho'Gall be more like Norse Dormu, where it takes both of you guys to opt in? I personally think Cho'Gall should work, Norse Dormu should work like Cho'Gall, where, hey, if they're playing Norse Dormu, you have a chance, maybe not 25%, maybe even like 10%, but there's a chance that you're going to play Speed Hearthstone. What do you guys think? Dan, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I do enjoy Nesdorm Day. I do play. I think I hit 2 out of my 3 this last on the 15th, which was awesome. And there's also a bunch of fun in just getting to drop your Nesdormu when you're winning, and they know that you put a worthless card in your deck and you're still beating them. That's also really fun. But I think there is an accessibility issue to the shortened turns that I think I would not be happy about that being imposed on somebody, right? If somebody, I think there's some accessibility issues there that I think would need to be really looked at when it comes to that kind of stuff, where if you can't make somebody opt in on that, I think that would be a bit of a bummer. As far as Cho'Gall letting 25% of the time, sure, cool, I like it. I think it's fun. I think, like I said, make games like PvP games like this. It's about making your opponent uncomfortable and about making moves that make their game plan worse. And if you can remove a hero power, or if you can, do something like that, might change their game plan. Cool, go for it. Yeah, I think that's part of the game. This isn't solitaire, right? The whole point isn't okay, you do your thing and I do my thing, and we don't really interact, right? It's no, I'm doing things to try to win this game, and if I think that putting this card that's gonna add this random effect to the game will help me win, or I will have more fun, both valid reasons to do it. Cool, go for it. I like it. I have no problem with it. I don't think many people are playing Cho'Gall. I don't think these are powerful enough to really do that, but yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Cool. 25%. Cool. Sure. Shoot.
Yeah. So for me, I'm in the same boat as Dan0. So being transparent here, as someone who has ADHD and has known this for years of my life, I like the idea of Norse Dormu a lot. I like the idea of Speed Hearthstone. I personally cannot compute a full turn of Hearthstone in Norse Dormu time. And so yeah, and so it I get the fast chaos is fun, but if Norse Dormu were to happen as often as Anomalies could happen with Cho'Gall after the guarantee of Anomalies goes away, it would very quickly, for me personally, make me reassess my relationship with the game. Because I don't rope every turn, but there's some turns I do, and for some people, the decisions I'm thinking through may not be all that crazy, but for me, going through and thinking about the different options I have on my turns, if I had to do that all in 15 seconds on a 25% of the time basis, that would change my relationship with the game a lot. So I like the way how both cards function. I like Norse Dormu being both people want to play Speed Hearthstone, perfectly fine, because that is a drastic game-changing effect that both players agree upon by putting those cards in their decks. And duels, yes, it could be a game-changing effect, but it is not guaranteed. If only if 1 or 2 people do. Yes, there increases the chance after a couple weeks, right? But it's not something that will make it, you have 15 seconds to take your turn instead of 90 seconds. That's my thoughts.
How about this? Give me a month of Twist where the rule is Dormu affect every game?
I think you'd have to turn off quest completion. I think a big reason why Nuz-Dorm mode isn't a thing is because you would complete quests so quickly, right? And then there'd be so much like advancement to the battle pass. I think it's a big reason why we don't see like a lot of that speed stuff exists in Hearthstone. I think it is they want the pace of play to be what it is. But to turn the quest off, super cool. I think it'd be fine. I'm not sure I'd play it a whole lot, but I wouldn't not play it a whole lot. That makes sense. I don't hate the idea. I might like it a lot. Who knows? It is frantic.
You're a fan of Blitz, though, right? You're a fan of Blitz, so it's kind of like similar.
I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, no one says you have to be good at it. I still remember that game that we watched where Trump SC was playing and he was playing for the value, and then he ran out of time, and I think he won that game. But it was just such a joy to watch because all of a sudden this person that is all about value was like playing, 2 seconds each turn, and it was great.
Blundered into mate. Yeah, it was great.
All right,
yeah, so his opponent blundered into mate.
We had a couple questions here, but I think we've talked enough about anomalies, and I think we're getting kind of late here. We told Dan we'll have you on for a short episode, and we're probably inching into tomorrow. So, oops, all talking. Dan, what are your final thoughts on anomalies here?
I like the flavor. I think it's fun flavor. I like Hearthstone with this kind of flavor, and so I like what they're doing. I've kind of missed some of the old story stuff that we used to get with the older expansions. I think this kind of harkens back to that a little bit. I think it's a big play. I think that they swung for the fences with it when they did a real measured kind of way of doing it. So I appreciate that. I like what this dev team is doing. I think that they're really brave with their decisions and their cards. I think the game is in an incredible spot. Do I wish duels had more updates and that arena was more balanced? And sure. That Twist had more than 3 playable classes? Yeah. But I mean, also, think of all the great ways we play Hearthstone. So I think for right now, because I was on the fence, is it going to make me play Hearthstone more? I don't think so. And it's also not going to make me play any less. I think it's a fun flavored text they did for this mini set. Totally fine with it. Have no problem with it. I am sure that they will adjust stuff quickly if they need to. So yeah, I'm sure. Cool. 2 thumbs up. Yeah.
Doc?
Yeah. I mean, I've said it several times before. I think Hearthstone is in one of the best spots it's ever been in. And when the team
for sure
feels comfortable with what they're doing to take risks like this, I think that means the game's in a very, very good spot where they're willing to change the formula of the game. And it's not a permanent thing. I just think that the devs know what they're doing. They were willing to take a risk. I think it is paying off. And like Dan0 said, I also miss having stories within the expansions and the mini sets. And I feel like this is getting closer back to that. And it's how it's touching multiple modes within the game, I think is really cool because it's the first time where they've done something that affected standard and BGs in this way with 2 keywords of a mechanic overlapping like that rather than just keywords on card text. Just very happy that the devs decided to take a risk, and I think that it's paying off completely. How about yourself, Tito?
I like it. I wish people on the internet were better. I wish they would not attack devs before they even tried something. And realize, hey, even if you don't like it, just, the people that work on the team, they're people. They want to make a game that we love and they love. I have some devs on friend lists and stuff, and when they're not working, I still see them playing Hearthstone. They love this game. They want what's best for everybody, and they want to keep it interesting and fun. So, before you just have a negative opinion and start yelling at people on Twitter or Reddit, just give it a chance first. But I'm very excited about it, even if I don't think that they're going to be that impactful. I'm glad they're doing it. And I hope they keep doing things like this because they're easy enough to tweak. They're easy enough. Maybe they say after 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, hey, we're not going to do this to the end. They have the ability to do that, but just be positive, have fun. And that's all. That's all. This is a digital card game. Let's do digital card game things. That's the entire joy of Hearthstone. But this has been quite an episode. I'm getting kind of full, but Doc, I always have room for dessert. What do you think?
Yeah, dessert sounds good to me. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and thank you so much for listening to our show for a year. Yay, again.
Huzzah.
If you would be so inclined, if you were to review the show, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps out with visibility, helps us get out there and more people to see us, because unfortunately, Apple Podcasts and everything don't do a good job of helping new shows become visible. So we rely solely on the listeners to help us with that. But let us know what we're doing, the good, bad, the ugly, because we want to make this show the best possible show that it can be. So just let us know what you think. And Dan0, one final interview question for you. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, man, yeah. It is a caramel apple pie.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
don't have to think about that. Yeah, it's easy peasy. So good.
I love you so much, Dan0. That is the most perfect answer. So, Daniel, if people want to find you on social media, where can they do so?
So, yeah, on Twitter, at Dan0 Play. The O is a 0 because I'm cool. I'm not on Twitter much anymore on that account because I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do go on there and I'll make like, if a funny joke or something stupid comes to mind, I'll usually tweet it out. But for the most part, not on there a whole lot. Squelchcast on Twitter as well is where the show is at. So that's where a lot of the Hearthstone stuff goes now. For me, I'll post that as kind of a personal account a little to a certain extent as well now. Squelchcast on Twitter. And then twitch.tv/Dan0 Play. Again, the O is a 0 because I'm cool. That's where Squelch streams the podcast. If you want to join us, usually Monday nights around 9 Central. So, yeah.
And are you planning on streaming it all again? Because I know you were doing that for a while on and off.
Boy, it's hard, right? So I think what the plan is going to be is like kind of like a Squelch Plays Hearthstone thing with like Matt and myself, or Matt and Joel and myself, or something like that. I'd like to stream again, but I don't have a real good place to put it. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's hard to fit into life sometimes. So yeah, I think, you know, I would say that like streaming Hearthstone again is definitely in the cards. Like definitely give me a follow. Like Hearthstone content does happen. But yeah, I would say for now, like streaming gameplay is probably going to be more of an anomaly. Then like a guarantee, so like a weekend. So a couple times a month probably at this point, I would say, for like, you know, especially in the school year when Sarah's working, it's really hard. So because she's a teacher, not that she doesn't work, you know, but it's like it's just really hard to like, you know, make time for that and the podcast and stuff. It's a big ask. So
how about yourself, Doc? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on mostly Twitter, sometimes Twitch at Doc McButt. And how about yourself, Tito?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. You can find me on Twitch at Tito Santana HS. You can also find me on Discord. And right now, so we aren't live streaming these yet. I know I keep saying that. We'll eventually get to there. But right now, we have me, Doc, and Dan0 in a chat room in Discord. And Dan0's cam hasn't been working, so it doesn't have it on. So he has this little icon there. And in my image here, Dan0 is like looking up at my webcam like, what the heck did Tito just say? So this entire episode, he's looking at me like, what are you saying? And it's pretty darn funny. But Dan, do you have any shout outs this week?
Yeah, shout out to my co-hosts on Squelch. So Magooch and Thralaman, Storm Rage, Mad at Arms. Yeah, thanks so much for like we're coming across episode 200 pretty soon, and it's exciting and fun and awesome, and it's just the most fun people to take a fun little Hearthstone ride on with. So yeah, let's say them.
Heck yeah.
Doc?
Yeah, so first and foremost, Dan0, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad we have completed the current Squelch host lineup. At some point, I would hope that we can get Enthrallment. And if they're actually real, maybe Magooch one day. But thank you so much for getting on the show. You've been an absolute pleasure, and I don't care what the length of the show is because you've been so much fun to have on. It's been so much fun hanging out, chatting Hearthstone with you. But I do also have to shout out Cortland for enduring the drive to and from Las Vegas unknowingly without AC by accidental choice. Because that was brutal, and she took it like a champ. Because that was so rough, y'all. We were just profusely dripping sweat because it just cars are ovens, and when you don't get to cool them down, you become a cookie. Tito, how
did you have the windows down at least?
Yeah, we did. But
okay,
I mean,
okay.
that only does so much, you know.
It's such a good story.
Now you see when obviously I'm going to agree with Doc. Thank you, Dan, for being here. Appreciate it. Hopefully it's not the last time we have you on. Now when he says he doesn't care how long this episode is going on, I thought he was going to say because he didn't have to edit it. Which
as someone does the editing, that does matter, right? It's like oof.
Yeah, and he also threw an F-bomb in there somewhere, so I have to go make sure I edit that out.
I cut it off like halfway through, okay? It was started. I do say it was started, but I didn't actually finish it.
Oh, I think it was finished enough.
Yeah,
you're right.
There'd definitely be a quack coming on Squelch, and I've been like, thanks, Storm Rage.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Like I said, we'll take care of it in post. But no, thanks, Dan, for being here. And I know I've thanked him before, but my whole content creation, I started podcasting, and I also started streaming around the same time. I've been streaming now. I just hit my affiliate-versary, whatever they call it. Woo! And I want to.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I want to thank Pilot again because he's been my mod and probably easily my most consistent viewer. And just even sometimes as a small streamer, when you have one or two people hanging out, makes all the difference in the world. So,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, there's nothing like when you there's nothing worse than when you've had like a night where like there was like 12 people in my stream last night. I'm having a great time. Let's get back at it. And then like you're talking to yourself for the first hour the next night. So no, thank you, Pilot, for just being. He's on my team now with THL Pro League and just overall been a great supporter. So thank you very much. But anyway, guys, I don't think we hit 70%, but we came close, and
we tried.
We tried, but I think we're toast. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.